Well, howdy, I am John Mark Dempsey, and we are having a second cup of coffee here with Pastor Pete.
Glad to see you.
Peter McNabb with First United Methodist Church in Commerce. And in Commerce, I live outside of Commerce, so and go to the First United Methodist Church. So that's
I know the pastor there. Yeah.
You do? Cheryl Murray.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. But First United Methodist Church in Sulphur Springs.
Right up the street.
Sulphur Springs.
Yeah.
And we are going to be talking with Pastor Pete about his great aunt, and it's a fascinating story. And she wrote a book a while back called "Finding My Way," Martha Wallis, and you'll be amazed at the things that she did in her career, and a lot of it you will be familiar with. But before we do that, what's going on at First United Methodist
It's an
Church?
exciting place to be. We're delighted to be at First United Methodist Church, very engaged in the community, the things taking place. One of the neat things we're doing is getting back in the fall swing of things. I know coming up in September, we've got a whole theme we're doing called On Purpose. And the idea is to really listen to where God's calling us and find our passion for serving within the purposeful living, purposeful serving as far as we serve God. And so we're going to be preaching on this, teaching on it for the month of September, and love to invite anybody to come on Sunday or Wednesday. We've got great opportunities 9 and 11 on Sunday morning, and then on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the evening to really study where God's calling us. So if you're searching for a purpose and seeing where God's calling you in your individual life and your family and your business and your church, we'd love to invite you to come on out to On Purpose in September. So it's important.
And there's 2 services on
Sunday
morning?
We have 9 o'clock contemporary service in the Family Life Center, 11 o'clock in our beautiful traditional sanctuary that we have. So we're delighted. And Bible studies on Wednesdays and just great things.
Okay, great. And I hope that Pastor Pete and I will have some other visits about what's going on with the church.
Yeah, that'd be
Let's
good.
talk now about Martha Heyer, as she was known as an actress. And I didn't know much about her when first learned about your interest in talking with us. But once I got into it, I realized, my gosh, I know exactly who she is. She was in a very famous and successful movie called Some Came Running.
Right, with Frank Sinatra. Yes.
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
And she played Frank Sinatra's, one of Frank Sinatra's love interests.
Yes.
in the movie.
Right. Very sophisticated looking. A lot of her roles, John Mark, were real sophisticated. Well, she had a lot of westerns first, and then even then she was kind of prim and proper. And really the golden age of movies back in the 1940s and 50s. And she was she never married. Well, she never had children. She married twice, but she was just committed to the trade of acting, and she was committed as a little girl, even started a lot of westerns. And then Some Came Running. She'd become kind of like this very proper person, as far as a lot of the roles. In fact, one of the funniest ones she had was toward the end of her career. She was in Beverly Hillbillies, and she comes in as like the richest lady in the world, and Jethro is after her. Jethro is really wanting to connect with her. She's beautiful anyway, and not just because she's my aunt, but she is beautiful.
Well, no doubt.
But she played this role in Beverly Hillbillies, and so that became kind of her status later on. She was kind of known as this really well. And she wasn't, growing up all that wealthy, just that she kind of had the way she could act that way, and she could do that. So.
But I made the note.
Yeah.
Did she win the award as best supporting actress?
She was nominated for best. It was one of the, and she writes about it in her book, which is an amazing book about the heartbreak of when she was turned down. She said she told everybody that's great. She congratulated the winner. Sure. But she went home crying her eyes out. When you get that close to getting an Academy Award, but then that sort of thing. But she was, to be nominated for one is quite an honor. So
now there's one thing after another in her bio that's amazing. Here recently, just in the last couple of weeks, she was recognized by the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, which is very close to where she grew up.
Yes.
But the thing that jumped off the page at me is just a little note at the bottom of the page. she wrote the screenplay for Rooster Cogburn.
Oh, yeah, she did. And she
with
was,
John Wayne and Katharine Hepburn.
Right. In fact, Katharine Hepburn was one of the ones that she really respected and looked up to when Martha, my aunt, I called her Aunt Marty, but when she was a starlet girl, just right out of college in Hollywood, everybody wanted to aspire to be like Katharine Hepburn, and then to have her later on write a script that Katharine Hepburn and John Wayne would star in. And she actually had worked with them, with John Wayne quite a bit on, she'd been in The Sons of Katie Elder with him and Dean Martin, in other words, that sort of thing. But then later on with her second husband, Hal Wallis, who was a really famous producer,
right.
she helped with the True Grit, and she writes about that in the book too. The True Grit, of course, just an amazing one that she was very much involved. My mom used to say, my mom's Agnes McNabb, her older sister, and my mom used to say that Aunt Marty and Uncle Hal, they just talked the same language. I mean, they really did. They had a great affinity. They were probably 25 years apart in age, but they would really talk the same language. They really connected, and it was a great marriage that they had toward the end of his life like that and hers.
I noticed, and we need to wrap this up, but in the bio, her parents were Sunday school teachers in the Methodist Church in Fort Worth. And I'm thinking there's some connection there between that and the fact that you're a Methodist.
Well, I feel, my grandfather was an amazing man. He was Judge Julian C. Heyer, and he was a state senator for Texas from Fort Worth, and he was also a very active Sunday school teacher there at First Methodist Church. They had a class named after him called the Heyer class and everything. And he became international president of the Lions Club, and so he really covered the globe and did a lot of great things in his life. And when he and I were playing football, throwing the football around outside, he would talk to me when I was a teenager and say, "Hey, you got a pretty good arm. Maybe you think you might want to play ball someday." And I said, I really feel God calling me to go into ministry. And he wrote, at that point, went home and wrote a letter to the dean at Perkins at SMU. And sadly, or whatever, after he died, I lost that calling and didn't come back to ministry till I was like 49 years old. And I felt God calling me afresh. And I remember those words. And my mom had actually saved a letter that he had written to the dean at Perkins saying, "Watch out for this young man. I want to encourage him to go to Perkins." And in my 50s, I was blessed to be able to go to Perkins and work there in the advanced course of study and study some things at Perkins School of Theology at SMU. So I feel like, in a way, I'm living into a legacy that he started and tried to connect with me. So.
Fantastic. Pastor Peter McNabb from First United Methodist Church in Sulphur Springs. We'll visit again here.
I look forward to that, John Mark. Thank you very much. It's been a joy to be with you. So.
I'm John Mark Dempsey. This is KSST.